Well, the UK government will defend veterans against Ireland's attempt to reverse the Troubles legacy bill.
Irish Premier Leo Varadkar says his government was given no option but to take the Legacy Act to the European Convention on Human Rights, the ECHR. The Act received royal assent in September and means soldiers serving in Northern Ireland would receive limited immunity from potential prosecution. But opponents of the bill claim it, quote, brushes aside the victims and their families.
So joining us now is Conservative MP and former Armed Forces Minister Mark Francois. Mark, thank you very much for your time. I've seen your comments in The Telegraph this morning. You sound very, very frustrated. Was this unexpected that Leo Varadkar would make this legal challenge?
Yes, I feel very strongly about this. Can I explain? I am one of a small band of Conservative backbenchers, people like IDS and Johnny Mercer, when he was a backbencher, campaigned for several years, even to get this legislation brought in. In the end, we managed to persuade Boris Johnson, when he was Prime Minister, to do it. That led to what became the Northern Ireland Legacy Bill. That was debated extensively in Parliament, took nearly a year to actually get through both the Commons and the Lords. And now it seems that the Irish government, perhaps aided and abetted by the President of the US, we're not quite sure, wants to go to the Strasbourg court to overturn a law which has already been passed by our elected Parliament. How can that be right?
Mark, is this further proof that we need to leave the ECHR?
Well, look, let me put it like this. There is a fundamental question here. Who ultimately runs this country? Is it A, the government and MPs democratically elected by the people at the ballot box in a general election? Or is it B, an unelected, unaccountable, unrepresentative, highly political foreign court? Where does power lie? I'm with Parliament on this. I think most of the people are with Parliament on this. We had this over the last couple of weeks with the Rwanda bill. There'll be more of that in the new year. Now we've got it on Northern Ireland veterans. In a couple of months, it'll probably be something else. We cannot allow a situation to pertain, where the will of Parliament can be overruled again and again by a foreign court. We should do on this what David Cameron did, to his credit, on prisoner voting, and simply say to the Strasbourg court, this is none of your business. We have passed a law. That is the law of the land, and that's the end of it.
This isn't the only legal challenge, though, is it, to this legislation? You've got bereaved families going to court in Belfast.
Well, it is a complex piece of legislation. That is why it was debated between both houses for nearly a year. I mean, this was not something done overnight or in a hurry. There were lots of amendments that were tabled. The bill was altered here and there in some ways. So this was not, a rushed job. It took years of campaigning even to get the bill in the first place. But Parliament has spoken. It has, after exhaustive debate, made an act of Parliament. That is the law. Now, I come back to my fundamental point. Where does power lie? Does it lie with the democratically elected Parliament and government of the United Kingdom, or does it lie with a foreign court? We are going to have to resolve this, because otherwise it will happen again and again and again.
Mark, you touched on US President Joe Biden. He apparently met Varadkar in New York in September and gave him the green light to do this. Is Arlene Foster right? Was she right earlier this year when she said that Biden has a deep hatred for the UK? It was only last week that Biden said that we wouldn't be getting an FTA. And there were sources from Whitehall saying that actually ministers would prefer a Trump administration next year because he might treat us a little bit better than Biden does.
I'm not sure if Biden hates the UK. People forget that in 1982, when he was a young senator on the Foreign Relations Committee, he stuck up for Britain during the Falklands campaign. Many people forget that, but it is true. But on this, if he is attempting to interfere in this very important matter in Northern Ireland, then maybe we need a Love Actually moment, and we need to tell the President of the United States, though we love him dearly, this is not his business.
And how much time is this, how much government time is this going to take? There's so much going on for the government to deal with, not least the ongoing strikes. Could this be months and months and months of legal challenge?
Well, if what the government should do in order to cut through all of that is simply to say, as we did on prisoner voting, there's a very clear precedent here. We don't get involved in endless complex legal arguments with the court in Strasbourg. We just say, we've passed a law. This is none of your business. That's the simplest way to deal with this, because we cannot allow many of these Northern Ireland veterans, many of whom have died, others of whom are in their 70s and 80s, to be endlessly hounded at the behest of the Strasbourg court.
Yeah, I think you're quite right, Mark. A lot of our viewers already emailing in saying that it's a gross betrayal of those veterans, and the fact that it's coming off the back of a reported collusion between Biden's administration and Varadkar is a tough pill to swallow. Isn't this just gross hypocrisy, though, from Ireland? Because as far as I understand, they haven't prosecuted one person for serious crimes committed during the Troubles since the Good Friday Agreement. Is this hypocrisy from Varadkar?
Well, the government of the Republic of Ireland, as you say, have not prosecuted anyone for terrorist offences since the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. But on the other side of the coin, as it were, we have continued to investigate and reinvestigate British soldiers at length, sometimes many times over, even when they had already been cleared multiple times. That is what the bill was created to avoid. It's a complex piece of legislation, but in layman's English, it aims to try and draw a line under this whole process. Now the Irish government are challenging that, and they're going to Strasbourg. But at the risk of hammering the nail to split the plank of wood, what this is ultimately about is it's not just about the Irish government. It's not ultimately about the President of the United States. It's about who runs our country. Is it our democratically elected government and our parliament, or is it a foreign court? And a time is coming where we as a nation are going to have to decide.
Yeah, another grave example of for us to leave the ECHR, our viewers would say. Conservative MP, former Armed Forces Minister Mark Francois, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, there you go. Of course, it is a very divisive piece of legislation. And no party in Northern Ireland supports it. We'll be speaking to someone with a different view later on in the show. But let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.com.